3 is the future.
Welcome, crew, to What Are Your Three, a Channel 3 podcast where we take a member of the Channel 3 community, discuss 3 games of their choosing, go through some honorable mentions, a few other odds and ends, and have a nice little video game discussion. I'm Dan. With me, as always, is Ray.
What's going on, everybody? Tonight's guest is a newer member on Channel 3, and you've probably seen him. I'm sure the Mario Kart people have been hanging out with him, especially in the Cups League. I see the event posting for a bunch of Marbles on Stream stuff, which has become very popular on Channel 3 as well. It is c3.gg/Knight. Knight, how are you doing today?
Yeah, no, doing good. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Well, we're happy to have you here, and we're excited to talk about games. I have to say, this is one of the more unique lists of games that we're going to talk about tonight. It was just, when I like seeing it and see kind of people's ideas of how they want to put a list together, what they want to talk about. And we're going to start right away with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And a question I always want to start with is just what's your history with Mario Kart? You know, how far back did you play? Which games did you like the most? And, you know, how do we end up at Mario Kart 8 today?
No, that's a good question. So I guess I'll preface this by jumping around it. And I love FPS games, and I've been a PlayStation kid my whole life. So what was interesting about Mario Kart is when I moved out to Las Vegas, that's where I live now, on Memorial Day of 2017, I'm living on my own, right? I had to get a console. So what ended up happening was about a year later, there was a tournament that was running at what's now the HyperX Arena in Las Vegas. And I was big into racing at the time. I had a sim racing background, and I'm sure we might touch on that later too. But I needed, something to do. So I ended up going to this tournament, meeting a lot of friends, playing Mario Kart, eventually getting into it competitively, which has led me down the road to here. But it's funny because I only started playing Mario Kart in 2018 on my own. I mean, passing by with friends, I've played, some of the games like the Wii version over the years, 64, all that. But I didn't actually own a Switch or a Nintendo product or start really diving in on my own until probably about the end of 2018, early 2019 with Mario Kart.
Okay. That's good. That doesn't sting for somebody who's been playing it for 30 years and still stinks at it. So
yeah, I started at 26 really getting into it. So if I can do it, anybody else can.
You know what? Let me tell you, I don't know if that's true, but I'm happy you're doing it. So you have a picture. I saw one of their posts. You posted a picture with Soulja Boy. At a LAN event. Do you so you just said you went what is now the HyperX Arena. Do you do a lot of LAN events in general? Is that something that's part of kind of your daily life?
Yeah, so essentially the LAN scene, it kind of started in Las Vegas, and that tournament ended up being the 199th rendition of the Mario Kart tournament called Saturday Night Speedway in Vegas. Soulja Boy showed up. It was kind of funny. He just showed up on a whim. But yeah, there's been 199 instances. The 200th one is a few weeks from we're taping this, and ultimately, it was a blast. There was a big social element to it. There's so many different random people, celebrities that have shown up over the years and things like that. And ultimately, my love for the game and kind of getting out of more serious racing games kind of allowed me to not only leverage building up a bigger role within the Mario Kart community itself, but also running events nationally in different areas. So that's kind of where my love for the game went. And I think that kind of stemmed from, I used to be in the music and entertainment industry, running concerts and events, not only in the US, but in Mexico and in Europe. So when the pandemic hit, it kind of allowed me to pivot a little bit and say, hey, well, I can run events, but let's try it with Mario Kart. And it's been a huge success ever since.
So do you run events in other places other than Las Vegas? Do you go around the country hosting events?
So the group that basically we have like a community. It's called USMK. You could probably understand what it actually means, but we call it USMK to protect ourselves, and we don't spell it out for United States so and so because of Nintendo. But essentially, we do go across the country, and even a little bit internationally too. So We run tournaments. There's a whole group of organizers, so we end up running, I would say, maybe a handful of like 4 to 6 every year. And then there's also a global or more of an international network now, going all the way to France, of other organizers running events too.
What is this MK Central? Is that like your section of this thing, or is that a separate thing?
Yeah, so everything's kind of tied into what's called MK Central, and it's kind of a community that formed to give individuals a competitive outlet to play the game. They run a variety of different tournaments, and I think over the years, when I first joined, it was very sweaty and toxic and competitive. I'm not going to lie. But over the years, when we built in LAN events and when the community kind of got used to each other and built up, it's become much more accepting. And even the Japanese community is involved as well, and then, players from all over the world. So we're kind of like the IRL affiliate of MKC.
Now tell me about. I saw this started popping up on C3, and I think you're a part of it. And I think you talked basic being it. As this Mario Kart Universal. What's Mario Kart Universal? I know there's a Iron Lounge, the Discord, and all these kind of races happening. What is that all about?
Yeah, so MKC, I mean, it's kind of like the umbrella, like, think of it as like NASCAR, right? It's the sanctioning body or community sanctioning body of Mario Kart, and there's different outlets that you can play. And I've actually been kind of running into that I guess discussion now. What do I want to do longer term? I'm trying to think of the word there, that dilemma. But there's a variety of different tournaments. 6v6 online is a very competitive format where you're playing with the team against another 6 players. In Mario Kart, there's 12 players to a lobby. So friendly fire is on, communication is at an all-time high. It's kind of like crew in a sense, if you're familiar with crew, where you're all pushing, you're all in a boat, and if you're only as strong as your weakest person, and there's a lot of strategy involved. So that's probably the premier tournament is Mario Kart Universal, or MKU. There's around 130 plus teams that play in it. It's about a 6 to 7 week season roughly, and it brings in players from all over the world, from France to Australia, Japan, all parts of North America, Latin America. So it's a really exciting tournament. And then there's also like different levels. Like if you want to get more into the pickup style of Mario Kart, there's Lounge, which is more of a ranked matchmaking system, and they overhauled it completely. Some of the admins have basically done it all through Discord, to where you can, get into a room at a same or similar skill level as you, and test your luck in different formats against other players all over the world.
And so since you're so involved in kind of like this competitive aspect of Mario Kart, what do you think is kind of like the premier way of doing competitive Mario Kart? Like when you're looking to race and you want to know who's the best racer, is it a team format? Is it an individual format? What's your way of kind of like the professional version of Mario Kart?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think online, the real standard is 6v6, just because of the fact that it's easier with players from all over the world to kind of run that format at a scale. And it does really kind of test, not just the player with the most skill can win. It's your team dynamic and your team chemistry that allows you to excel there. So I think online it's 6v6, but I would want to say that the combination of 2v2 and free-for-all in the in-person events is probably more mainstream, just given the fact that a 4-year-old could walk in with a controller and compete, or a 74-year-old, right, and just walk up, and it's very kind of turnkey, and there's no other game on like where you can literally be up on a stage with some of the best players in the world and actually be somewhat competitive. Obviously there's a big skill gap, but with Mario Kart it's an easy game to learn but hard game to master.
Listen, the biggest thrashings we've gotten have been from an 11-year-old, so I don't want to
Sneaks.
Sneaks is
Sneaks is so Sneaks was in Vegas at the time, and I'm going to be seeing him in a couple weeks now. Actually, he's already 15 or 16 now, and
I was going to say that was like 4 years ago. He was 11. He's probably 15 or 16.
He's so good. Yeah, he was at a tournament couple weeks or 6 weeks ago or so that we ran in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and didn't have the best result. But yeah, when Sneaks is on, he's on. When he gets a little flustered, he'll struggle a little bit. But in the main group though, he was a real breakout talent for sure, and he won so many titles in Las Vegas.
Did they so when they changed this, when they added the item customization system, did that affect competitive play at all? Is that used at all? Do they remove lightning bolts, or is it always all the items all the time?
No, that's a great question. And there's definitely a lot of things to unpack with this beyond just your question. But to answer you directly, Ray, I think the standard is normal items. I think people have tried using different items, but given the whole like distribution and given like that you get items based off of your distance from the leader, the community just kind of came to the conclusion that, hey, we should just stick with the normal item set, and not customize anything. It is a little bit wonky and it is a little bit fun, like, for gimmicks and stuff like that, to go blue shells only or blue shells and, mushrooms or stocks only. But yeah, it's from an integrity standpoint, everyone just likes the normal item set. But I think what another good question to kind of follow up with that is the item system did get changed a little bit. So you can no longer sandbag, is what they call it, manipulate as much in last. And that was one of the areas that I exceeded in, because I was similar, if you compare 66 to crew, kind of like the coxswain, I guess, of the team. And I would actually be in the back manipulating items and go through and tell everybody on the team where everybody was, what everybody was doing and where they were. And that ruined my play style when that came out during the DLC.
Is there ever a strategy to just hold on to to search for a blue shell and a bullet bill just so the other team doesn't get it? Is there ever a strategy just kind of to hold on to items and just not use them?
Yeah, I mean, bagging is a huge part of that, where you're holding on to your items until the very end. So holding a blue shell, even holding a shock or a dodge, like a star, a boo, something to that effect. That's extremely useful. But yeah, to your point, in 6v6, like if your teammate's in first, holding on to that blue shell is going to be crucial, because you might get a bad spot with that bottom player, but it'll cancel out with that player that you're protecting and keeping in first. But that is another thing. When you're holding on to it, there's only one blue shell that spawns in every game at a given time. So you're ensuring, it's like an insurance policy. Yeah, that player's going to take an L proverbially for your team, but you know that there's nothing that's going to really affect first besides maybe lightning.
So, how did the meta changes? Because they put out these booster packs, and then they kind of sneak in these changes to the system and what characters and cards are gonna do well. How'd you feel about that change?
Personally, I didn't like it, but I think it's a good change for the game. There's a lot more balance in terms of the characters, and basically no characters got nerfed per se, but just some of them got buffed to make them a little bit better. So like that middleweight class, that's like Yoshi, Peachette, some of the Inkling characters, and Birdo's part of that as well. Those are the more common ones you'll see. And so a lot of people that like end up using the Teddy Buggy and things like that. But there's a lot of viable combinations now. Just for fun, the other day I was experimenting in the Soldier Boy tournament with the old meta, and I was actually doing better than when I was doing it in the old on a Scooty and on Morton, which is a heavyweight character. So I think it really now it's a little bit more balanced. It just comes down to how you like to drive and what your play style is. I will say though, in cups, the competition is so good and so chaotic that I'm forced to use the meta to win, which is it just is what it is, honestly. But I think that kind of is a testament to the gameplay in that league.
So what's your go-to build as we're going to start closing up on Mario Kart? What are you raced with?
Yeah, originally it was Morton Scooty. I switch off, but I have a lot of different combinations. I'll sometimes mix it up with Villager, with Yoshi, and I mainly stick to the Teddy Buggy rollers now, but I really dislike it. So sometimes as a guilty pleasure, I'll go back to Morton Scooty, but I mix it up all the time, because if you're in a LAN event, people are going to know what your combination is and they know how to target you. So I always try to mix up what I look like for that reason. But yeah, you can normally find me on those couple of characters. I would say Yoshi, Inkling Boy, Villager Boy, or Morton.
And let's finish with what's the favorite track, and then what's the least favorite track?
Ooh, that's a good question. So that's the thing with the least favorite tracks. I've hated a lot of tracks, but I've just come to like them after practicing them. I would say that my least favorite track right now is Rock Mountain, and I was fuming when that was one of the first tracks I had to play in cups. But yeah, I think it's just a weird track. There's just a long glider section. It's a lot of straightaways, and there's not a whole lot of substance there. But I like Twisted Mansion, and it's one of the longer tracks in the game. The reason I like Twisted Mansion is because from a racing standpoint, there's split pass, there's a double apex turn, there's glider section. So back in the old meta, like you could shock in certain places, you could take advantage of cuts, and you could run on it. pretty well. So that and obviously the aesthetic of it too, right, is just great with the whole like spooky theme. So that's my favorite.
All right, moving on to game number 2, Marbles on Stream. And let me tell you, I never thought there would be a list. People play marbles and they enjoy it. I never thought Marbles on Stream was going to make a top 3 list. But here we are. Tell us about Marbles on Stream, because I see you running the events all the time. Is this just like, is it the love of kind of the community of playing the game?
Yeah, no, it's very interesting because I can't really play marbles. I would say I haven't played it since it really came out consistently. I started off, maybe there's been 50 seasons now, like season 7 or 8, played it, went back during the pandemic, probably started playing it again in 2021. And then recently, I just started streaming it. And there's been so many different changes to it. It's just a very simple game, right? You press a button, you get a marble on the track. It's all RNG. It rolls. But I think of it as like, if you're streaming, it's like just chatting on steroids, because it gives like a visual stimulant that adds to just the natural conversation that you have on a stream. And I think, being a guy, that's definitely helpful because, I don't have the just chatting meta compared to other streamers, to put it that way. So, so I really enjoyed it. And ultimately, that's kind of what led me a little bit to C3 is, I've been playing it. I've been getting into some like longer like laps races, which kind of is the theme of, the racing streams that I have. And then one night, Evil Vixen, she rated me and got to meet like a lot of members from C3 there. And I actually kind of got a better picture from just what I've heard over the course of, intermittent talks with like Sneaks and 805 about it. And so, because I've heard of C3 for the longest time, but I don't think I got the, initially the right impression of what it was. And then I joined it and I was like, oh, wow, there's a lot here. And so, that's my only regret, is not wishing I hadn't joined sooner. But it's just a really fun game. And I run these longer races as well, too, every now and then for laps. And there's like these hour-long circle track races. It's pretty fun.
So yeah,
you couldn't have segued that better yourself. I just gotta tell you, his notes were right there, Knight. You're doing a great job.
Oh, so thanks.
So tell me, that's the next thing on the list here. Tell me about the Marbles on Stream Laps Association. Because I actually had to look up, because I know you have it abbreviated on the events, and I said, what is this thing? Tell me about this association, because this is amazing to me that these things exist today.
So it's funny because when I got into the game, this just kind of bleeds into 1 and 2 a little bit. There was this kind of a racing mode that they were building where you would put your marble on the track, you just run a couple laps, and there was a point system. And so back in 2021, when I rejoined Marbles for my second out of 3 tours, my Mario Kart team ended up doing marbles. And, all it requires, it's kind of like, you're at a slot machine, right? And you're in the slot tournament, you're just pressing the button over and over. There's no skill involved. So we all just knew the preset time. We entered our marble in the race and see how we did.
Hang on 1 second. You better watch your tone with this no skill thing. I'm just saying. Be real careful here. You're getting
it's
a lot of people real riled up here. Just be real careful.
It's all RNG.
Exclamation point turbo, exclamation point boot. Those all do things. Those all do. Game Genie, Game Shark. Nope. You got to make your pick.
If you highlight your text, everyone knows you go faster.
Yeah. So people think that like if you switch your loadout in between races that you can go faster, but yeah. So we ended up doing that, and I mean there were like several hundred people play. It was horrible. We were like maybe top 50 as a team out of like 100 teams. So after a while, we're like, all right, let's take a break from this. But it was really kind of a cool concept and new. And so when I came back into Marbles and started streaming it, I was like, hey, I was here at the very beginning. I know I've been gone for a little bit, but I'd love to run one of these races. And so the streamer Ender's World, who's one of the he's on the staff team for the actual development group that plays the game, was like, sure. So I was always running an event on my own called Friday Night Laps, because my channel has probably one of the best RNG or skill-based record-breaking sessions and all of those styles of tracks. So I was like, this is just a natural extension. Let's just tack this on. People can play. So I've done 2 of those right now that I put on channel 3. One with one of those longer races that the whole Marbles community comes for, and then one just sort of a more intimate C3 session. And they've both been a blast, to be honest. So, and we've even seen some of the C3 members even nearly win the bigger race there at the end.
Have you built any tracks yourself, or do you just grab like kind of the preset tracks
Oh.
that are used for these events?
I just started building some. I'm not really good at it. I've slowly started to get decent. I can't do decorating yet, and I don't have time to do decorating because it takes hours. Like it's crazy. But I made like a quick track because they sometimes have quick tracks when you're wrapping up your stream. You just want to make sure you get some races in. But I did make 2 tracks, and they're both similar in their theme of they're designed to kind of troll you a little bit, and there's bombs, and it's kind of like Mario Kart, but it ends in a circle. And so the goal is to survive, the circle essentially. So I have one called Cursed Celestial Circuit, and then I have another one called Super Night Speedway. So they're on the marbles. They're in season 50 if anyone's curious. I know Evil's played them once or twice, but yeah, they're fun maps.
What's the longest race you've participated in?
Oh,
Because I know
marbles?
some of these go because I know some of these like just go on and on and on.
Yeah, most of them they take like 2 to 3 minutes. The MSLA races, the Community Cup, the ones that they run, those go about an hour and change. But the longest race that I know of is at the very beginning of the MSLA season. They do a 500 lap event at a track, and those go for hours. So that's the longest.
And last question, do you hold any of these world records yourself right now, or have you just been like the viewer that showcases other people that kind of hit these world records?
Yeah, I mean, if my marble's in there, I have like a 1 out of I think 20 chance. I get like, I don't know, 10 to 20 marbles around. So I don't think I have any this season. The season just started last week, but last season I ended up having 1 or 2. I had a record on one of the laps tracks. It's called the Saber. It was it's a sword basically. But yeah, I got pretty lucky last season.
All right, well, let's transition now. We've gone from the goofy, cartoonish, but intense Mario Kart 8 into the RNG gods and praying at their altar with Marbles on Stream. Now into a little bit more realism with our racing sim, going into iRacing. So I think you hinted earlier this was a bit of a passion for you for a while with some of the racing sims.
Yeah, it was funny. I used to like NASCAR when I was younger, and when I was like 11, I ended up buying this game called NASCAR Racing 2003 season, and I was too young to know what to do with it. But I picked it back up in around 2006, 2007, ended up getting a wheel and a pedal set and getting in like the last glory years of the game. But iRacing actually is the extension of that. It was by the same developer. It was a group out of Massachusetts, actually. So I was able to go to their office and stuff like that. And it was like a more full-fledged version of what that NASCAR Racing 2003 was. It's a racing simulator. They work with every major racing series, and you can enter in, races on there, and you have to have like the wheel, the pedal set. It's a hardcore racing simulation. So yeah, I mean, I was racing probably from, I would say, 2006 to 2010 or so. I kind of stopped at college just because of college internet and all that stuff. But I had like a good 4 to 5 year run, and I did various races. Had gotten into go-karting when I was younger a little bit, just like indoors and doing some bigger races there. And then what ended up happening is I actually transferred to UNC Charlotte with members of my sim racing team at the time. I was at a small private school in Rhode Island, business school. You can probably do the math by process of elimination there. But yeah, I wanted to transfer. I was at too small of a school, and a lot of my friends on my iRacing team were actually like NASCAR drivers, and I ended up actually going out there and getting like all my courses transferred. So it was kind of a cool blend of, in-person stuff and racing, and I loved it in Charlotte. That's where I graduated from. And I got to meet a lot of members of the team, and some of them are even racing now in NASCAR. So
do you still run iRacing at all? I mean, this thing's still going. They're have ongoing relationships. They're building up some of the NASCAR. They picked up that license and they're moving on there. Do you play with this one at all still?
not anymore. I just don't have the setups, the wheel pedal set. I mean, to get back into it, you're dropping still a lot of money. And I just don't have the time with work, and Mario Kart's been fun. But when I was in my heyday, though, I was on a team with like Parker Kligerman, Shane Van Gisbergen, Scotty McLaughlin. And then we had like a lot of, lower level guys that developed up that some even come out here and race across the street from where I live at the National Go-Kart race every year in Vegas. And so it's been really cool because I got to kind of train with them. And I was like one of the lower level guys, obviously, but just to kind of have a seat at the side of that table was really cool to understand the dynamic of things. And even through college too, I became an esports kind of not an esports caster, but I was casting real life races. So I kind of translated that even over time from racing to Mario Kart and to other games.
At the height of your powers with iRacing, what was the rig like? Did you just have like a base pedal set? Did you make some upgrades in there? What were you rolling with? Because I mean, I've seen some intense people building. Obviously you're talking about a college age, post high school college age, but I'm sure there wasn't an elaborate turning your garage into a whole thing. But what were you rolling with?
I remember, now that I think about it, my dad built this contraption for like being able to take out the keyboard and have like a desk. So I had something crazy going on there. But as far as wheel and pedals, I had like a Logitech G20 something, or like one of the Logitech series wheels. And then I did upgrade pedals to Fanatec. The base pedals that come with these, even $300 steering wheel sets are pretty bad. So I don't even know what my parents paid for it, but it was at least several $100s. So I probably had like, and it's funny too to say that this is probably below average, but I probably had like a $700 to $800 or $1,000 setup at the time.
People easily cross into five figures when they're putting together some of these things. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it was a blast. And like, I was mainly a super speedway specialist. I did a little bit of road course racing. Go-karting, I was kind of a dominant force between Massachusetts, where I'm from, and North Carolina at the time. And I even got into, just off of simulations, testing trophy trucks and rally racing, I guess you could say. The Mid 400 is not too far from here, which is the biggest rally race in North America, I believe. So I got to do a lot of really cool things. I'm not kind of in the shape or the or in any position to really return to sim racing, but I wouldn't trade it for the world, though. Just getting that experience and then being able to commentate real races. I was a pit reporter for a few years, and then bring that over to commentating Mario Kart and other esports games.
You said you were doing actual go-kart races at the same time you were doing some of the sim races?
Yeah, I was translating what I was learning into real life experiences. And I think that's one of the few games that you can actually do that in. So I was doing some go-kart races in Orlando. I did some in Boston. They had a thing called Kart Clash, and I actually stole the name and ran Mario Kart tournaments under that name. But yeah, it was a blast. And so I got to meet different drivers from all over. And then I ultimately got to test, a trophy truck back about 7 years ago. So, and I had to stop because I got injured. But other than that, though, it was a fun ride.
See, that's what's kind of more like, how did you jump between the two? That's what I was kind of trying to figure out. Like, did they feel that close? Because I almost feel like I could do one or the other. That would probably be it, because like the feel of the road, you kind of get the feel of the machine under you. And I mean, I know some of these rigs get intense, but it's not quite the same. How did you balance that?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have the money to like actually run a full season in anything, but I was always like, hey, we have this opportunity and we can't fill it anybody. And you're like the next on the depth chart on the bottom. And the group of friends that I was with, and I was like, I'll do whatever. So I ended up racing what's called a slingshot once in Pennsylvania. They're these little dirt modified cars that slide out from underneath you. And I just love that sensation. It was like a Zamboni, but you're on dirt. And so that's why I was like, hey, you know what? I got this offer, and I still kind of had to pay for it. It's weird. In racing, they're like, yeah, it's free, but just got to pay for the ambulance and the if you want like any shots taken, just pay for the photographer. But the actual equipment is free, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, you should have just bought the $10,000 rig rather than the ambulance trip. That would have been cheaper.
Well, I didn't. Luckily, I didn't have to use it, but I ended up testing this this trophy truck in the rain and the funny thing was there was like one of the best drivers in the world apparently behind me, and I didn't know that coming on the track. So I was just kind of settling it in for him. And I was like 6 or 7 seconds off pace, but I was scared. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like when you go to dirt and it's raining and there's mud like flying into your face and you're in the air, like the pictures don't do it justice. Yeah, the rally racing or the trophy trucks were crazy. I loved it though. I wish I didn't have to do it in the rain, but I'll take 6 seconds off the track pace for not knowing what I was doing.
Hey, before I kick it back to Ray, if you need to, my grandmother's from Worcester, so I can slip into the Massachusetts speak if you need to at some point. I'm fluent still. I can speak that. That is my other language I can speak. So if you need to, I'm here for
okay.
it.
I don't have the accent actually, but yeah, no.
No, you don't. You don't at all. That's the funny part about hearing hearing the Massachusetts. Again, like I said, my grandmother, Boston gets that southy thing they have going on there, but Worcester's where you almost have a separate language altogether from English. So it gets weird
Worcester,
up there.
Leominster. My mom's from Dorchester.
There it is.
Yeah, so I'm familiar with it. I've been used to so many accents over the years. Like when I lived down south in Charlotte, like I would hear the southern accents and didn't think anything of it. And now that I've been in Vegas for now 7 years, I'm like, why are you talking with that draw? Like it's so funny. Like a Californian accent doesn't mean anything to me now. So it definitely evolves over time.
All right, moving on to the honorable mentions now. 3 more games on the list. The first one is Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. It's a 4.1 star rating on Channel 3. And we'll start with, did you play this back in 2002 when like the original one was out, or the remaster in 2017 where they kind of put it all together?
I actually never played the remaster. I did play Roller Coaster Tycoon 1. I think I did like 2 the best. Just a fun game. Like I would just be in the sandbox mode and just go to town. Like or sometimes I'd take a pre-made park and I like dismantle it and try to make my own spin on it. I never actually played the game for what it was up until maybe I got into like Planet Coaster a little bit, and I only dabbled with that for a little. But yeah, the whole series was fun. Like I would spend hours making go-kart tracks and like, just these coasters. Sometimes I would, try to kill people. That was like a small phase, obviously, that you could drown people in that game. But it was just fun, to make, just kind of, the world was your sandbox in that game. It was just so much fun.
Knight, it's kind of like Mario 64. Everybody tries with the penguin at the bottom to find out what's going to happen with the baby penguin. We don't judge anybody for that. The same thing happens with Roller Coaster Tycoon. You're going to remove a couple pieces of track and see what happens. You're going to throttle that speed up a little bit. Nobody's judging you here.
Yeah, I didn't even know how to work any of the water elements too. Like you could make water parks in one of the games, and I didn't know how to do it. So, fortunately, that probably wouldn't have gone well in real life. But yeah, just there's so many different elements to it, and you could charge people $100 to go to the bathroom. And that's one way to make money. Like so, I think that's. Yeah, that was what was kind of really just interesting about that whole series. And I did buy Planet Coaster. I didn't spend as much time on it as I would have liked. That's kind of like a spin-off of the series, but yeah, it's just a lot of fun.
So is this kind of like, is this Marbles before Marbles happens? Because you can make tracks and just kind of run around and see how fast
I was thinking about that when we were talking about Marbles, like, oh man, it's kind of like Roller Coaster Tycoon a little bit. Maybe. I literally just thought of that, like, yeah, when you were talking about Marbles like 10, 15 minutes ago. I don't know, but yeah, that was definitely one of my top childhood games was Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Is it so was number 2? Do you like remember it being significantly better than number 1? Like just like did it play better? Was it easier to use?
I think the graphics were obviously good for its time. It was a very like primitive type of a game. I think what was interesting about 2 was, if I'm not mistaken, is they did have some unique aesthetic changes to like the coasters, and every game kind of had their own base set of parks. And I could be wrong here, but there was a park in like Blackpool, England that I love to play in. And I don't remember the name of it, but it's in Liverpool. It's whatever the park is there. I know they have a lot of the Six Flags parks built into the game. But yeah, that was a blast to play, and I spent a lot of time on that particular, I don't know, map or park, I guess you could say.
So I have your second honorable mention on my side of the docket here. I'm a little confused because it's WWE Just Bring It. We're going to talk about the WWEs also, but I'm a little confused because I didn't realize WWE really went beyond the Nintendo 64. Like the height of WWF, WWE, I felt like it was Nintendo 64, but here you are bringing the PlayStation 2 into this. I added this.
Dan, that's because you're old, Dan.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, that's fair.
WWE was PS2. I know all you old people want to play your your Monday Night Nitro stuff and all that on the 64. No. We had Just Bring It.
Here Comes the Pain. SmackDown
Here Comes the Pain.
Raw.
Oh yeah, those were the games. I think
arguably maybe I was thinking about that. Here Comes the Pain could arguably be better. The only reason I put Just Bring It in was because that was the first game for WWE on PS2. That's when my parents bought me and my brothers a PS2. So I was a little bit I was just excited that came with it. But the real reason was, and I think it's changed now. I haven't played a whole lot of the newer games beyond 2017. That might change. I might get the 2K24 one. I don't follow WWE as much anymore, but Just Bring It had 8 players in a match, which was something like at early 2000s was unheard of because of, frames and all that. And so being able to play a Royal Rumble with friends and there were 8 players in a match and it was crazy. So that's the one that I liked before they brought it back down to 6 again. But yeah, I just remember that game in particular because that's right when I got my PS2 and I kind of became, PlayStation kid growing up.
That happened. Who was your go-to then? So what would you guys all crowd around the TV? How did you roll with this?
I'm trying to think. Well, over the years, we would each pick a wrestler, and some of us would play. We do tag team matches. I think in some cases we even created our own wrestlers, and we had them face off each other. Some were stupid creations, some were really cool. But it was a lot of fun. I mean, The Rock was probably my favorite wrestler at the time, and still is. But I mean, and he was on the cover of that game as well too, I believe. So. Yeah, I mean that game in particular just got me excited because that's right when I got my our first console. I did it the PlayStation 1. There were a couple breakout games there, and the funny thing is I did get a couple games on the PS1, but my parents were a little bit more frugal at that point, and so we just had this demo disc back when demo games were a thing. And I will always remember there were 3 games on it that stick out. There was Full Borders. There was Madden 98 or something, and it was the Packers versus the Broncos, Elway and Favre, and then it was some WWE or WWF game at the time, and it was Stone Cold Steve Austin and HBK, and Stone Cold Steve Austin was on the demo tape and doing this exclusive thing, and everybody was freaking out about it. So that was the first real WWE game that I had was Just Bring It, but I'll always remember those 3 games from that demo tape.
That was a crazy part of the PlayStation era was the CDs were so cheap to produce. They made those demo discs. I forgot about some of those games until I was adding things into Channel 3's library. And it was oh my God, I never actually played this game. We just had the same fight in whatever this game was. Just one of us was the red guy. One of us was the blue guy. And just fought it. It was fun. It was like you said, you didn't have money for this stuff back then. It was just how you rolled.
Yeah, I remember it took me years to convince my parents to get me a memory card. But yeah, I mean, Spyro was another game on that. Now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, there were just so many crazy games. And it was just a lot of fun because that was kind of like a Whitman sampler of different games that you could play. And I've also been big in FPS and BRs and stuff. Never probably it wouldn't make my list, but yeah, I played a lot of different games, and yeah, those demo tapes were awesome.
Was Just Bring It your first game on the PlayStation 2, you said? Or was it
so, yeah.
So what was it like? Because you turn on the PlayStation 2 for the first time, you see that opening screen and the music, and then you're picturing PlayStation 1 graphics and going into what may as well be real people. I mean, looking back now, it looks like a blocky mess by comparison. But what was that like turning that on for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny too because when I've had the PS3 and then I went to the Switch. Switch, obviously, you can't compare to PlayStation, but even I don't even remember the PS3 difference between the PS2, but I'll always remember the difference of turning on the PlayStation 2 and the difference between PS1. And it was completely different. The graphics were insane for the time, obviously, too. I mean, they're horrible now, but just even that incremental difference between PlayStation and PS2 is crazy. Like, even like my parents couldn't believe it at the time. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Now, your final honorable mention, NCAA football 2011, which is, you're just bucking trends here today, as Ray mentioned. Normally, we're finally in an era where we're getting college football 2025 finally here. So many people have wanted to talk about 2014, but you brought up specifically, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a lifelong love of the NCAA football franchise, but why 2011?
I think I never had 2014, and that was also too when I was graduating college.
Yeah, the dark.
So
we call that everybody has their dark ages night. That's one of the dark ages.
That was the dark age. Yeah. So I got out of sim racing. I didn't play a whole lot of video games. I was, doing racing in person. I was in a fraternity, so I wasn't playing games in that, that window. But 2011, I think the story is that I either stole it from my cousin he let me take it, but he just had like a list of games. He was in college, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna try college football 2011. And so that and we would always share games with each other, but I was like, all right, it was like Metal Gear Solid or this one. So I picked it up and I just never put it down. And even when I would go home sometimes, maybe a few years ago, I would even recreate, like UNC Charlotte ended up going FBS in my final year of school. So it's like that 2013, 2014 season, I think. So I just had fun. You just created the team, built it up. And I guess it's kind of the same theme now as Roller Coaster Tycoon as well. Like, you got to manage the coaching, you got to build a schedule. There's a recruiting element involved in it. But I played, NCAA football. I am excited and looking forward to the new version. But I also played like some other sports simulation games as well, like on the March Madness side. But yeah, NCAA football though was just a lot of fun. I prefer it more over Madden personally, just because there's less like name association with these players and ratings. It's all kind of random, and there's a lot more freedom to build out a team.
So you say that now for 2011, but I'm sitting here watching these tracker sites going up right now about who's opting in and who's opting out for 25. So I'm going to be very curious what this looks like by comparison with them coming back into. It's been an 11-year break. I'm going to be very curious to see how the return goes.
Yeah, I am too. I don't really know a whole lot about that opt-in process. I know it's going on, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see how good the game is.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy watching it, and they're also putting blocks in place. So if Dan Tucker doesn't opt in, you're not going to be able to go and create Dan Tucker on the St. Joe squad.
Oh, right, with the names. Yeah.
They're putting blocks on all the. It's kind of crazy to see. I'm very curious to see what happens with it. So
you're going to see D at N. There's no way they can't block every single version of it. People find a way.
Yeah, that was something that actually I do recall in the later years of 2011 was there was like a portal. You could go to the EA Sports site and you could download a team, and somebody had made the team from my alma mater, and it was really cool. But yeah, that would never. That would never fly now.
In the before times, you could ship a memory card off to an address, and they would put the roster on the memory card for you in those days too.
Yeah, I remember that time. That's pretty cool.
All right, so now we look to the future for a game you are looking forward to, and we have here, it's written as Mario Kart 10 just because Nintendo likes to talk about Nintendo Mario Kart Tour as number 9. So next Mario Kart, I feel like this is a hard one because I feel like they're in the same boat as Super Smash Brothers, where it feels like they've put together the perfect version of the game. So what would you want in the next iteration of Mario Kart?
Still don't like that latest item update, but I think, like you said, I think it has to be kind of like a Mario Kart Ultimate. And I know they've had different names. Is it MK10 or is it Mario Kart Crossroads? But I think that they need to expand their roster list or their list of characters and maybe incorporate different IPs from like maybe Pokemon or some other Nintendo IPs. Also, too, I mean, like you said, it's a little bit difficult because, I mean, the fact that they basically just doubled Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with the track list, went from 48 to 96, like how many more tracks could they put into the next version, I think they need to make maybe a couple tweaks, maybe bring back like a Mega Mushroom or add in some new item dynamics. Maybe keep the driving the same. I haven't, I didn't play like some of the previous versions, but there was things like demon sliding and fire hopping that like would make you go faster. That's a little bit harder tech for the average person to learn. So yeah, I think for me, it would just be, just kind of the aesthetics, getting in more tracks, incorporating more IPs, and making it something like a Mario Kart Ultimate in a sense.
Would you be open to them bringing in a double dash concept again, with having kind of the two racers on one car, or even have racers attached to their own special items?
Special items I could get behind. I like the concept of double dash. I think that just has to be a separate mode within the game. I think that it should be, one character to a player. I kind of like that whole racing purist aspect to it, but yeah, we'll see. I think that would be a cool like add-on mode, but having kind of like, and we've been seeing it in other games too. Like I played Valorant for a little bit. Every character there has their own ability, right? So having a special item, assuming it's balanced and everything, could definitely be an interesting twist.
All right, next we take a question from the Channel 3 history books we pick for you to discuss with us here tonight. We discuss the games in advance. We have a heads up about what's coming, but we don't talk about what the quest is going to be, so we have a little fun on the spot here. The quest we have picked for you from your history is from a series I believe Ray created here called Wait, Where Do They Work? A series to help us understand where a video game character would be if they had an everyday job. And we ask, wait, where do they work? For Kirby. What would Kirby do if Kirby was not a video game character?
Ooh, and this is what's going to be a little bit, I don't know, disappointing, because I don't play a whole lot of other Nintendo games, but I know Kirby. I would say, I don't know, I feel like Kirby would be in the like entertainment or the service industry, perhaps. Like I know Kirby can sing. I don't know why I'm mixing up Kirby with Jigglypuff.
Kirby can sing too, though. That's true.
Yeah, Kirby
not
can
wrong.
sing, and I would just see them maybe like running their own karaoke studio or like place, like in Chinatown in Vegas, or I would see Kirby like as a line cook somewhere. Those are just the vibes I'm getting.
See, when she said that, when she said service industry, my mind immediately went to Kirby would be the best busboy you'd have on Earth.
Yeah,
just cleaning the table,
yeah.
Just wipe the table right off the bat. Done.
Maybe got some AirPods in. Yeah, wipe the table, and yeah, you're good. That's kind of what I'm thinking of.
And the last question we ask everybody: what's been your favorite feature on Channel 3 so far?
Ooh, okay. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting ones. I would say the thing that's been the most fun and also the most frustrating, but I bring it upon myself. I like the mini games. I really like Target. And the funny thing is like sometimes I'm an idiot, and like I've had a little bit of, this mainly happens on the weekends. I might have had a little bit too much to drink, and I think I know what I'm doing, and then I'm way off. And I try to mainly go for Mario Kart and Fortnite. I don't know too many of some of the other games that are on there, but there's a whole list of them, obviously. But it is fun to kind of see where you line up, where the exact location is of this location that you're given, and you have to pinpoint like where on the map it is. On Mario Kart specifically, there's 4 different maps, and you have to kind of know. And I've also made the mistake of like we had Mount Wario the other day. And because Mount Wario is a checkpoint track, not a lap track, I flipped where it was because I was looking at the start finish line and not recognizing. And again, I should know where that is, but I don't blame myself in the situation. But it's very challenging in some cases. But you got to really focus on it, and it's a lot of fun.
Knight, I'll make you feel better about your personal failings in Target. Ray and I were just kind of grinding some Fortnite last night to finish up the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff, and Ray's like, "Oh, I got to get a screenshot for Target." He says he's going to take one there. So sure enough, what's Target this morning? The screenshot he said he was going to take. I said I'm not going to get it, and sure enough, I was off by like 300 pixels on a screenshot that I'm in. So it could be worse.
That you're in? Oh man, yeah.
I always say if I didn't set up the Fortnite targets, I'd have no shot at the Fortnite targets. I think it's amazing. Everyone that does well at this game impresses me.
Yeah, like I think the one today I got pretty much dead on, but yeah, I've had some ones where, yeah, you're just way off. I think the one today for Mario Kart was easy. I'm just given the location, but yeah, sometimes it's really hard, and that's the beauty of it is you don't know what you're going to get, and yeah, you just got to be on your A game, and I sometimes just don't have the self control to, and I rush in and. Yeah, I'm either within a few pixels or I'm off by like several hundred.
Jedi puts together the kart ones, and I will say this: he is never unfair with the selections that he makes. There's always something there Yeah, I tell Ray, it's like, as we were onboarding people for Target, the best targets are the ones that give you something that you really know. You're not just staring at like a green wall. You've got something in the background. You got that item there. You know where that tree is. You always crash into. You know where that spot on Mount Wario is. And Jedi's really good about that in Mario Kart, as silly as it may sound. Like, no, he makes it. It's a very clear spot. You should know where it is. That's the nice part about the Mario Kart ones.
And you know that because every time you miss it, you see where it is. And you're like, how in the world did I miss that one? Like it's been staring at me in the face kind of stuff. That's when you know.
Yeah, I think some of the ones I miss are just some of the tracks that I don't touch, or some like Mario Kart 8, not 8 Deluxe has a few small differences. But yeah, there's always, like you said, like some landmark that you should know, or at least you've seen before. There's not some random location. Even for Fortnite 2, I don't play it as much. I'm either very close or like very far away. But even afterwards, I'm like, oh yeah, like there was one with a bridge, and I picked the right location, but I just like, why didn't I just select the bridge? Because there's water underneath it, and it was 12:01, and I probably should have just waited to do it when I woke up. But it's really fun and exciting, honestly, and all the mini games are fun too. Enhance, I got to build my courage up for that. I've heard a strategy from some of the other members that they study the game arts before diving in. I go in blind. I go in blind.
Should.
I never studied the game arts. If I don't know it, that's a me problem.
Trivia, I go in blind too, and it's just a mixture of different questions every day. But yeah, I really like Target out of the three, though. If you had to tell me one to choose, that would be Target.
And with that, we've made it to the end of another What Are Your Three podcast. Thank you, Knight, for being with us. You can find the podcast at c3.gg/podcast, dropping every Wednesday morning at 3:33 a.m. Eastern on all the major platforms, including Spotify, YouTube Music, and Apple. I'm Ray. Dan puts this all together. Our theme song is by the one and only Caster Garden. And for our executive producer, Joel Willis, have a good day, everybody.
Channel 3 is the future.